The advent of World War II is an exciting sign of progress in engineering in our industrializing world, but a byproduct of everyday necessity leads to pollution. Most, if not all, pollution ends up in our waterways and eventually our oceans, which limits an already scarce supply of fresh water. Today, we are seeing the effects of water scarcity from practices started and standardized during World War II. The extent of ocean pollution is beyond what many people think. Ocean pollution includes plastics, heavy metals, fertilizers, pesticides, chemical weapons, nuclear fuel, and overwhelmingly trash. Dumping radioactive waste into the ocean was banned in 1949 with the adoption of the Conservation and Preservation of Marine Pollution Act. Despite the abrupt ban of dumping nuclear waste into the ocean, damage has already been done. Discharge at a large processing power plant found levels of radiation 17 million times larger than usual amounts. In 1959, the Soviet Union dumped large amounts of radioactive waste into the Arctic Ocean. 100,000 barrels of radioactive waste of medical technology and industry are lying on the seabed off the coast of Spain. All of this radioactive waste was dumped by governments, which means accurate records of radioactive dumping have been recorded. The first dumping of radioactive waste was unsurprisingly by the United States. Following the conclusion of the Manhattan Project, the US dumped radioactive waste 80 kilometers off the coast of California, and this trend of dumping radioactive waste has continued. Radioactive waste has been dumped in the Celtic Sea by Europe, across the entire eastern coast of the United States by the United States, across the south coast of New Zealand by Japan, and many more. All of this radioactive waste was packed into cement containers without contaminating into surrounding environments, but these containers are degrading rapidly, and leaking radioactive material could be a very real possibility. Unlike the nature of packing waste of other countries, the Soviet Union dumped radioactive waste in a different manner. Radioactive waste in the Soviet Union was dumped by facilities as runoff, which eventually made it into the North Sea. This radioactive waste has dissipated into the ocean and is impossible to clean up today. Not all radioactive waste was dumped intentionally into the ocean. Today there are 9 nuclear submarines sitting on the ocean floor. The Fukushima disaster led to fallout contaminating ocean waters, bomb test in the Bikini Island by the US, and medical technology waste by the growing European medical industry all have contributed to the nuclear pollution crisis. Chemical waste is one of the most extensive categories of ocean pollution. Chemical weapons, oil spills, human waste, heavy metals, fertilizers, and pesticides have all been disposed of into the ocean. Nerve gas was sunk by Russia and the US in metal containers. The US disposed of mustard gas during World War II alongside cyanide, lucite, chlorine gas, and atomsite. The east coast of the US, especially off Cape Cod, is littered by US chemical weapons. Japan, Russia, and Europe have all dumped gases as well. The widespread use of chemical agents during World War II in Europe led to disposal of gas after Nazi Germany's surrender. Nazi Germany's gas was disposed of across the North, Baltic, and Celtic Seas by the US. War weapons are not the only source of chemical pollution. DDT was invented in 1847. DDT is a type of poison that is sprayed onto farmland. This poison runs off of farmland and eventually makes it into the ocean. With the abrupt ban of DDT, industrial chemical companies dumped 500,000 barrels of DDT off the coast of California, just like chemical weapons. DDT is designed to kill, and the degrading barrels that were dumped is killing marine life off the coast of California to present day. Not all chemical pollutants were designed to kill. The Deepwater Horizon polluted a large area of the Gulf of Mexico with crude oil. Heavy metals pollute oceans and sequester fish. This sequester of heavy metals leads to health consequences like mercury poisoning in humans. Carbon dioxide, sulfur oxide, and nitrogen oxide are all released by industries into our oceans. These pollutants can form into carbonic acid, nitric acid, and sulfuric acid, which overwhelmingly fall into the ocean. Some ocean biomes like coral reefs are extremely susceptible to small increases of pH. And if you are not convinced that saving the coral reefs is important, coral reefs are one of the most biodiverse biomes in the ocean. Coral reefs serve as the spawning ground to fish. The fish spawn in coral reefs feed over 3 billion people and employ 2 billion in the fishing industry. The fishing industry receives about $240 billion in revenue, and the ocean is the only system supporting this industry. Trash pollution is one of the most publicized versions of pollution. The plastic dumped into ocean every day leads to the formation of garbage patches. When plastic sits out in the ocean in large garbage patches, deposits break apart into microplastics. Microplastics can enter a fish and eventually into the human diet. Ocean pollution can be slowed and cleaned up. The best way of stopping ocean pollution is by not letting pollution get to the ocean in the first place. Cleanup efforts by organizations like Team Seas, the Ocean Cleanup, and governments are already trying to help combat the physical waste from oceans. But chemical waste and nuclear waste should be the responsibilities of governments and corporations who dumped the waste there in the first place. The ocean is a vast place and human survival depends on it. Keeping our oceans clean should be a main priority.
All these shootings, pollution, we under attack on ourselves. Like, let's all just chill, respect what we built. Like, look at the internet, it's cracking as hell. Fellas, don't you let it when you have sex. And I heard women, they're better than it. So what we gotta stand for, what we gotta stand for. Love. And we